So our utility currently is facing a very large capital investment need of about $600 million over the next 20 years to address aging infrastructure, growth, and changing in the permit conditions of our treatment plants. A significant portion of this is in our first 6 years. We have about $300 million of capital investment needed in the first 6 years. About half of that total, so around 150 million of it, is assigned to our large-scale solids project we have going on at the Central Kitsap treatment plant. When I took over here about a year ago as the division manager, we had just finished an initial rate study that had our projected rate increase of about 12.75% to work on trying to fund this huge need. Do you need me to lean over more? Is that better? Oh, now I can hear myself.
Pull it up a little bit too. There you go.
How about that? Does everybody hear me now? Okay. So knowing that the 12.75% rate increase is not something that's sustainable, we had to go back to the drawing board. What I'm showing now is some of the excerpts from the original study that was finished in 2023. Again, we had our connected customer rates were at 12.75% raised for the first 3 years. Then in 2029, it was going to go up 10.5%, and then it was going to level out for a bit at 5%. You can see that our non-connected customers, septage, and then what we call FOG, which is fats, oils, and greases, which we get from restaurants, and WAS, which is waste activated sludge, which we get from not only our 3 smaller outlying treatment plants, but also a couple other treatment plants in the county. That was going to have an initial raise of about 5%, and then a couple of years down the road, it was ticked to go up again. As you can see down on the bottom on the line graph, it shows roughly what a particular customer was paying for cost of service. So in knowing that this was not only not sustainable, but was not equitable, we went back to the drawing board. To manage this more effectively for our ratepayers, we partnered with the Board of County Commissioners, which I appreciate all 3 of yours heavy lift in this. You guys have seen me and talked to me about sewer rates about 500 times, I feel like. We spent the last year taking a different look. So instead of simply accepting this plan, we went back to our capital improvement plan, or CIP, which is inside of our general sewer plan, to reevaluate every project we have on there. It involved a rigorous process over the last almost 18 months now to identify each project's necessity and then explore more cost-effective solutions. So for instance, rather than simply defaulting to building a brand new pump station, for instance, it was on our list, we've now prioritized upgrading the existing infrastructure first. So we've gone through and we've started this on projects that are coming up, but we conduct a thorough inspection to determine if a full teardown is truly necessary, or can we achieve the similar results by replacing the assets that are truly aged out. This has been the guiding light and has shaped all of our decisions in managing the utility since I came on here. The result is a more structured and physically responsible CIP list that directly addresses the most critical needs of the utility while also minimizing the financial impact on our ratepayers. So after we went through this process, we then came back to the board and we started with 3 different scenarios. So our first scenario was, again, this is a way to pay for all of this capital work that we have. This is a bar graph just kind of laying out so you can get a visual look at how expensive all of these aging assets are. Again, our utility as a whole is, a vast majority of it is closing in on 50 years old. So in scenario 1, again, board, you guys have all seen these numerous times. We had some rate increases, but it kept that line graph down on the bottom. Again, it kept that cost of service where connected customers were paying more than what it cost to treat their waste stream. Our second scenario brought the liquid hauled waste, so the septage and then the FOG and the WAS, it brought them up closer to what was cost of service for them, but it still left our connected customers paying a little more than what it cost to treat each one of their waste streams. What we have ultimately, what the board has decided on and we're moving forward with, or attempting to move forward with, is rate model 3, which has everybody converging on as close as we can get to 100% of cost of service. So connected customer is paying for what it costs for us to treat each gallon of sewage that we collect from their individual households. And this is the structure that it then lays out. And questions?
All right, so that's your conclusion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that is the fee structure you're asking us to approve.
Correct.
Are there any questions?
No, I don't. I think we've gone over this. I think that the team is, we've asked just for everybody, we've gone back and forth on this and we've really tried to whittle this down and you and your team have done a great job really trying to figure out meeting the need and the critical need that we need of our infrastructure and yet trying to maintain without exploding the costs. And I think it's been 3 or 4 times we told you to go back to the books and figure it out. And that is known, that is seen in these numbers, and we appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know you've also made your rounds. You've came to the Central Kitsap Community Council. I believe you're at the other advisory councils as well to share and take public comment and questions there as well. I do have a question for you. So from those meetings, did you have any takeaways from what?
A few. Again, I think everybody was appreciative of the effort that we've put forward. I don't think anybody, myself included, I'm a rate customer as well. Nobody likes the cost to go up, but I think we're attempting to be as open book as we absolutely can with this. Again, there's a lot of infrastructure we have that's 50 years old, and there's a cost to replace it. We're trying everything again we can to curb that cost and to use every dollar we can and stretch it as far as we can. So
Nick, can you mention a little bit about some of the grants that you've gotten the state or the federal support that you've got?
yeah, so specifically at the moment for our solids project, again, which is a huge chunk of this large budget that we have coming up, we have secured DCIP funding, so Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program, to the tune of $20 million. We have another $10 million from the Public Works Trust Fund Board and a low interest loan. We have another just shy of $10 million for the design of that project, again, in an SRF low interest loan. And we're continuing to try to work with the state and your commissioner's office to attempt to turn over every rock we can and find every dollar we can, again, that's either grant funded or low interest loan, trying to stretch that dollar as far as we can.
And essentially, you have enough projects in here that we could look for grants until the end of time.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. They get slightly easier the 6th and 7th time you've done it. So we're starting to become pretty good at them.
Well, the success you've had with the like I'm going to say aggression, but that's not the right word. The assertiveness with which you've been going after these grants, I mean, that's really paid off. So.
Yeah, if we could get the congressional direct spending to just get all the way through the cutting room floor. We've had a couple of times where we've landed and they've cut a little bit, and by the time it makes it all the way through the cutting room floor, though, we lose out. But we're close. We'll get there. We were also DCCA funding. I should have looked it up. It is Commerce's, it's effectively their matching money that they put. It was started to go against DCIP funding. They've since opened up for everything. We put a package together for that. We were actually 3rd on the list and would have gotten money if they didn't cut the entire program this last time. So in 27, it'll come back around and we'll take another stab at it. Hopefully we'll be lucky then.
That's great because you're servicing Keyport and Bangor with this treatment plant. So that
Correct.
makes sense.
And all the septage too. So every septic tank in Kitsap County brings their septage to CKTP. So everybody that lives on a house that has a septic tank, we treat their flow as well.
All right. Well, I have nobody signed up in the room to testify or speak to this here. Is there anybody online?
Let's give it just a minute.
Okay.
And there is none.
Okay. Yeah, you've done an excellent job going out into the community and getting the feedback. So, which was basically don't raise our rates, and you did a good job getting those costs reduced. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you want to adopt this resolution tonight since we have heard this?
Yeah,
been
I'm fine
working
with
on it?
that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that too, Madam Chair.
Okay, does somebody want to make the motion for item B?
Got it?
No.
Okay, I do. I move to adopt the resolution establishing sewer service rates for the Central Kitsap Sewer System, the Kingston Sewer System, the Suquamish Sewer System, the Manchester Sewer System, the Navy Yard Sewer System, and liquid hauled waste disposed at the Central Kitsap Treatment Plant.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll just say thank you, Nick. You guys really did a huge turnaround from 2023.
You guys as well. I want to say thank you to all the board members. You guys have been very insightful and very helpful for us as well. It's nice that we can keep coming back, and we've been working together to get this finalized. So I appreciate all the help and the backing that you guys give us.
All right, and just so you know, we are not done. We will be looking to get these rates down to 4%, 3%. So keep going.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? The motion carries. The resolution adopting the sewer service rates is approved. Thank you.
Nice work.
All right, next heavy lift from Public Works.
Public hearing C, public hearing to consider a resolution adopting a schedule of fees for sewer utility development service fees and Department of Community Development sewer developer plan review service fees.
And here to present on this is Anthony Burgess.
Wait for the screen to catch up. Good evening, Commissioners. So I am bringing forward a topic of 2 revised fee schedules, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And we brought this forward. It accompanies a resolution because it's fee related, and that's the topic of the evening. It's good that it's coming forward as a public hearing. A brief agenda before we dive into the details. We'll talk about the history of our sewer development fees, the charge that was given to us by the 3 of you a couple years ago, as Nick was speaking to, the methodology used for these new and updated fees, limitations. We'll go over the proposed fee schedules and a summary of the proposed resolution, and then open it up for any discussion you'd like to have before we open up the hearing. So the sewer utility has maintained consistent fees for development services without adjustment since their creation in 1996. As you can imagine, wages, cost of service for vehicles, gas, equipment have increased dramatically. These fees cover plan review efforts, which is a review of Department of Community Development applications, development inspections, side sewer installations, and other related services for new and redevelopment projects. These fees have not been incrementally increased over time, and the true cost of labor and equipment is not recovered, and the revenue deficit is currently covered by monthly utility funds. The additional cost incurred by the sewer utility to support private development has been subsidized by sewer utility ratepayer funds. You're going to see a theme in some of these slides. I'm going to reiterate that. When the sewer utility brought forth the need to increase utility rates, we heard the board loud and clear that we needed to turn over every stone and find all opportunities to give relief to the ratepayer base. Those efforts included a cost of service analysis, which was just discussed in the last hearing, and an additional effort was chartered to include a review of our developer service fees. A high-level summary of our findings was that 100% of the utility's efforts to support DCD applications for review were being subsidized by the ratepayers, meaning we were not charging any fees for those efforts, for that time spent. And the sewer service provided to new and redevelopment project efforts did not capture the cost of service. Again, they haven't been touched since 1996. For the DCD sewer development review fees, we looked at all of our logged labor in SmartGov, which is a very powerful tool that DCD utilizes to track time spent in individual permits. We looked at labor efforts for 2025 and 2024 and determined a minimum level of need or effort to provide review service by individual permit type. Employee wages, benefits, and overhead costs for review staff was utilized to determine a rate factor to be applied to that minimum effort required per permit type. Those efforts ultimately resulted in the proposed flat fees presented in the DCD sewer service fee schedule. And again, these proposed fees reduce dependence on utility ratepayer funds. We did coordinate with KBA early when this was a very new idea. That was in July of 2024, and we were surprised to receive some overwhelming support. If there was a need to fund our staff so that we could keep pumping out the applications, they were excited. They just wanted clarity on what that would look like. We did send out the fully developed fee schedules earlier this month. We haven't heard any feedback. We may get some this evening as part of the hearing. And this has been heavily coordinated with the Department of Community Development. The goal here is for transparency to the public at large and the development community. If these fees are accepted and approved, they will be integrated into their current forms and web pages for clarity. We're going to do a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure it's as seamless as possible for the end user. The sewer development review fees went through a similar study looking at employee wages, benefits, and overhead costs to determine an hourly rate for individual work groups. As you can imagine, the sewer utility has many different factions doing different types of work. These work group rates were then reviewed against Cartograph, which is our software tool to track efforts in the field, to determine a minimum effort time for each activity. Vehicle utilization and any specialty equipment was also factored into that analysis. And these efforts resulted in the proposed fee schedule, which we'll go over in a slide or two. And again, we presented this idea and the final fee schedule to KBA. Now, it goes without saying, not every study is perfect. General overhead costs that we included in this study are not complete. They are not fully captured. And so we are considering these fees conservatively low. Significant efforts are needed to fully document and appropriately break out how these overhead costs impact the fees proposed. But in order to reduce the immediate burden on ratepayers, the proposed fees are proposed with time in the resolution with a very low escalation to give the utility time to perform the full analysis. And an excerpt from the resolution is on the screen. What it's proposing is that January 1st of each year through 2029, we would increase the proposed fees by 4% or the Seattle-Tacoma CPIU, whichever is less. That way we're keeping up with the cost of inflation, but we're not increasing our fees any more than we should be. And the utility would provide a complete analysis of fees to be proposed before the board in 2029 for adoption by January of 2030. Some very fine print on the screen, but what this slide represents are brand new fees which have never been captured before. And again, these are efforts which have not been reimbursed to the utility ratepayers. For comparison, if we were to look at a preliminary plat, which is a very common application type, this is a flat fee of only $310, and that captures what we see as the minimum review time needed. So this isn't the most complicated final plat out there. This is the simplistic ones that would be coming through the door. And that's the methodology we used as we looked at our time spent on individual permit types. For the sewer utility development service fees, again, there's a lot of fine print on the screen. We looked at a comparison of what the 1996 rates were. Those are on the far right-hand side of the column in red, and what we're proposing. These are not insignificant increases. However, they do represent our true cost of service. There are several fees which are new, and these are for significant efforts that have not been reimbursed by the development community. Most importantly is the lift station review. These are very large, complicated facilities that have electrical and mechanical components. We were just reviewing those and inspecting those at the ratepayer's expense. So this again captures that minimum effort needed. I did want to highlight that the sewer availability fee, which is a burden seen by the development community and was expressed by the KBA to be one, we're cutting that nearly in half. So we are trying to reevaluate how we navigate that fee to reduce the financial burden on the development community and make it more simplistic for utility staff to manage that program. If you have any questions on that, we can get into it during the Q&A. A quick summary of the resolution. The proposed resolution will amend fees originally introduced in 1996. It will create 2 fee tables for recovery of actual costs of service, the DCD sewer development plan review services and the sewer utility development service fees. That DCD sewer component will be coordinated with DCD on an annual basis to ensure that we're providing full transparency and we're integrating with their software appropriately. The resolution will include conservatively low cost escalation through 2029, and it will be effective January 1st, and it will better protect the utility ratepayer funds and dramatically reduce subsidization of private development services. And the floor is yours.
All right, we haven't had a motion yet, but let's see if we have questions or discussions before that.
Because we have a.
Oh, we have the public
Public
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't have anybody signed in, so.
Do we
Let's
ask
open
right
the
now?
public hearing.
Mhm.
Yep. Go
There's
ahead,
anyone
Dana.
online?
Dana, do your magic. Don't you have to read something to open the public hearing?
No, just as long as you said we're opening the public
Okay,
hearing.
we're
yeah.
opening the public hearing.
Yes. And no one is raising their hand. So
Okay. Okay, we have somebody in the audience to speak to this. Yes, and then identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Jody Logue. Just had a question as I was listening. I might have misunderstood, but it sounds like DCD is charging a fee to another county office to Public Works. Is that accurate?
Can I answer as part of the public hearing?
We don't usually do that, but
I'm just-
let's hear, so it's is that a concern?
Yeah, it seems concerning that DCD would charge a review fee to another public office that's funded by taxpayer dollars. That just seems really peculiar, maybe double dipping sort of. Like, that just seems weird. I don't know if there's a better way to say that, but DCD charging Public Works a fee to review their paperwork just seems really bizarre.
Okay, should we let Anthony? Okay.
So just a
Thank you.
concern.
Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
thank you.
For that.
It's a great question. So they're not charging us a fee. It's an effort that has not been charged to the developer requiring the service. So that effort has been covered by monthly utility bills for people around the county rather than the developer paying for the effort required to review their permit. So an example would be a new neighborhood in Silverdale. Sewer service needs to be extended. The sewer division reviews those proposed utilities. We were not getting compensated for that effort by the developer, which is typical for permit applications. So this effort is to break that inequity so that the developer is paying for the service required.
And so essentially, Anthony, DCD is the point of contact for the application the applicant, the developer pays the fees, the permit fees to DCD, and then DCD passes them back to you to cover Public Works' costs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a great question.
Okay. All right, and anybody online with a hand raised?
There is none.
Okay. All right.
Anthony, can you clarify, what do other counties do? Is this typical and other counties charge these fees?
Other counties are usually pretty good about charging for their cost of service, so we're trying to get up to par with them.
Anthony, thank you. I have to say that it sounds like, according to some of our work studies we've gone through, and you eloquently explained it to a point where, even a Marine can understand it, right? So I appreciate the fact that, one, you reached out to the stakeholders and you asked them and you presented this and said, what do you think? And that's the key to what we do. And I appreciate you guys doing that. And I appreciate, in this instance, KBA, the Kitsap Builders Association, coming back and saying, actually, this will help. This is what's supposed to be done. We're kind of surprised it hasn't been done for years. So they were almost expecting it. So I appreciate that. The fact that we, as the county, was absorbing all that time, if I understand that correctly, on those reviews, and to address, ma'am, your comment question, was that now we're kind of evening everything back out, where now we can afford to do this, and we can actually do the things we need to do after 50 years, or after, what was it, 1996? That's a long time not to be able to collect fees with each year being inflated. So that my question is that 4% increase every year, if inflation is 5%, 6%, 7%, are we going to adjust that such, or are we going to just absorb that for that 1 year and see how it goes year to year?
We would cap at 4% per the proposed resolution. Again, though, this is kicking the can down the road a little bit. So if you're still in your seat in 2030, expect the conversation to be coming up again.
Sure.
Because there will be a more detailed analysis that needs to be provided.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. The intent here is to give us enough time to collect the data, right? We have, some of these fees are new. We haven't tracked them. So we had to take, best shot we could at this point and say, okay, we know we're not collecting this money. So that'll get us there. The intent here the next couple of years is to really track all that time so we can turn around and say, okay, here's the exact dollar amount that it costs us to get all these different permit types out the door.
Okay. So we're catching up, essentially. We're catching up, and we're just maintaining, collecting that data. That way we can get a real feel for where we're at here in the next couple of years. Yes?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, what I really appreciate is that this was looked at as part of the review of how do we keep our rates from having to go up by 12% a year. And you, through a number of different things, you discovered this or found a path forward to recover some costs for the utility rate payers. So I appreciate how you're moving these together in partnership, because they all kind of are part of the solution to maintaining a sewer system in this county. Is there any other comment? Are we comfortable approving this resolution today?
Mhm.
Okay, do I have?
Chair,
Oh,
can we actually close the public hearing though?
yes, let's close the public
Thank
hearing.
you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
The public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt the schedule of fees for the sewer utility development service fees and DCD sewer development plan review service fees.
Second.
The motion has been made and second to adopt the resolution, adopting the schedule of fees for sewer utility development service fees and DCD sewer developer plan review service fees. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
A lot of work.
All right, next public hearing and last, right?
Well, actually, we're going to be going back to item 2A. It's dealing with the sale and issuance of the sewer.
Oh,
bonds.
because we have to do that
Yes.
in partnership with us. Okay. We're getting to the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
After this. So item 2A, resolution authorizing the sale and issuance of sewer revenue bonds.
Hello, Amber.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am Amber Dunwitty. I'm the Director of Administrative Services. And I have before you this evening a resolution authorizing the sale and issuance of sewer revenue bonds to complete sewer projects as part of the long-term capital improvement program for the sewer fund. So like you mentioned previously, Nick has done a great job of getting grants and low interest loans and all sorts of creative ways to finance these multi-million-dollar sewer system improvement projects. It's not enough to get all of that work accomplished. So we are proposing using sewer revenue bonds to finance the remainder of the need for those projects. Tax exempt municipal bonds are a common way to finance major large capital improvement projects with a useful life of 30 plus years. So this resolution that I'm asking you to approve today would authorize staff to take the next step towards the process of getting those bonds priced and marketed and sold. We're asking for an amount not to exceed $57 million. It might not be that much. That's the upper limit, but this gives us a little bit of flexibility. It also depends on what interest rates are going to do in the next couple of months. Things could change drastically one way or the other. Hopefully they go down. We're hoping they go down. We're not looking to sell bonds until January of next year. So hopefully by then the market will be more favorable than it is today for us. So this resolution authorizes staff to proceed with that process. We'll come back to you when we actually are ready to sell the bonds. It also delegates some signature authority for some of the documents and paperwork around the bond process, specifically to me, to save you from having to sign hundreds of pieces of paper. So that is the bond resolution. This is the first step in, like I said, a lengthy process. We're working on developing an official statement, which is a document that outlines the projects that will be financed by these funds, as well as the details and data about the sewer system in total, our community, our demographics, our economy. Then we will present that to Standard & Poor's for a credit rating. We'll request a credit rating from them, which we'll then use to market our bonds as well. The better the credit rating, the better the interest rate. The sewer system has a really great credit rating. We're one below the top with S&P right now and expect that to be maintained or even improved this go round. So after the credit rating presentation, then we'll start the pricing and the timing of the bond sale. So this is just the first step.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the authorization of the sale and issuance of sewer revenue bonds, fiscal impact 150,000. Sewer utility.
Second.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the sale and issuance of sewer revenue bonds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Moving forward.
moving forward.
Okay, back to public hearing D. Public hearing to consider an ordinance relating to growth management, amending the comprehensive plan and map, and amendments to Title 17 zoning, commonly known as Year of the Rural.
All right, so we're going to begin this public hearing with a brief overview of the items that are being discussed, being proposed for changes in the county's comprehensive plan. Following that, we'll go into a public hearing where people have 3 minutes max to give feedback. I have about 21, 22, 22 people signed up in the room. And then I have a bunch of people who signed up on the sheet called General Issues sign-in sheet for speaking. So if you signed up and wrote GMA or Year of the Rural, or land use, I'm going to call on you. And if you weren't meaning to speak on Year of the Rural, just say, I'll wait till the end of the meeting. So we'll first go to the people in the room. So that's going to be, I'm going to say about 30 people, and then we'll go online. And Dana will call on people in the order in which they end up on the Zoom participants list. Okay. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for having me this evening. My name is Heather Cleveland. I'm a long-range planner with Kitsap County Department of Community Development, and I'm here with my supervisor, Jim Rogers. And like you mentioned, this is an overview of the project with some details of some of the changes that we've had along the way with the public process. An overview of the topics in this presentation tonight is an overview of the project, noting some of the Planning Commission recommendations, deliverables and updates, how those were woven in, and then next steps in the public process for the project. So project overview. So the Year of the Rural it's part of the Growth Management Act. And this is just kind of an overview, just a reminder of where all of this is coming from and what it's connected to. So the Growth Management Act was passed in 1990. It has planning goals, and we acknowledge those in several of those that are particularly connected to the Rural and Resource Lands chapter. There is a specific element, mandatory element called the rural element. That's part of the Growth Management Act, and the main driver for that is rural character, among other things. There are three main land types in the Growth Management Act, and that is resource lands, rural lands, and urban growth areas. So two of those three are, acknowledged and were a part of our Year of the Rural and Rural and Resource Lands chapter. I want to point out that in the Rural and Resource Lands chapter, we're proposing a fourth type. That's not part of GMA, but we do feel is important for recognizing forestry and agriculture. It's a tiered planning process. So this starts, from the state in the Growth Management Act, and then it goes to the 4 counties, Snohomish County, King County, Pierce County, and Kitsap County, all looking towards growth in population, employment, and housing. And then it comes down to our countywide planning policies, and that is the planning collaboration between the 4 jurisdictions, the 4 cities in Kitsap County and Kitsap County. And then it comes down to our comprehensive plan. And I say all of that to acknowledge that this is tiered, and we look to all of those as we're even looking at just one chapter as part of this. Kitsap County's history, so acknowledging that the Growth Management passed in 1990. We didn't have our first comprehensive plan until 1998. We had 3 invalid plans. And I mentioned that and keep that in mind as I'm working through this process to say that this is hard. This has been hard for Kitsap County. Also, we're the only county in the state that does not have agricultural zoning. We have 6 significantly subdivided shorelines. Just some of the issues and topics that we continue to work through moving forward. And then today in Kitsap County, we do have forest resource lands, we have mineral resource overlays, and urban growth areas along with landmarks, which is limited area of more intensive rural development. So this is a slide just to show that this effort, again, is connected to the comprehensive plan. The 2024 periodic update was adopted in December of 2024. And this effort is to pull out the Rural and Resource Lands chapter to be a standalone. The last time it was a standalone chapter was in 2012. It was woven into the land use chapter in 2016 and again in 2024, but knowing in 2024 that there would be a Year of the Rural effort to make it separate. This is a slide showing, so this has been a project in 2025 that kicked off early in 2025, and a big part of it was community outreach and engagement. So this slide here shows also at the very top that because it came out of the comprehensive plan periodic update, 4 public comment periods were reviewed to identify areas specifically related to rural and resource lands. Those were summarized and part of our process as we moved forward. We also conducted 2 surveys, and a survey early on in the process in February and March, and then again a more specific survey in June and July. And then we also had multiple presentations, interviews, and meetings along the way with this project. But I'll also acknowledge that the Year of the Rural is very broad, and we did our best to lean into specific topics the best that we could. We also had workshops in June where we reached out to the community in the 3 different districts, sharing our initial drafts of the direction that we were going with the work. And the photo here shows a meeting in Central Kitsap, and then also just a comment. You know, we had many great comments and we weren't always able to incorporate them specifically, but we did try to represent them in the Rural and Resource Lands chapter. And then the bottom here shows the public process that then kicked off in on September 2nd when we published the drafts. We also had an open house. The public comment period began on September 2nd and closes today, November 10th. And then 2 opportunities for public testimony, the first one being with the Planning Commission, and then the second one being this evening with the Board of County Commissioners. This is an overview of the timeline of the process. So we did go through the Planning Commission process here. You can see that in September through October. And the comments that were received up until October 21st. And then those were summarized along with the testimony, and all of that led to, and then the Planning Commission recommendations led to a 2.0 documents that were published on October 28th. And public comment period continued, and then we're here today for the hearing. After this, there will be the Board of County Commissioners deliberations on November 24th, and then looking towards adoption on December 8th. So now a bit of an overview of the Planning Commission recommendations. This is for illustrative purposes only. This was a part of your packet, but it shows we divided up the comments by deliverable. So it includes chapter, code updates, reclassification requests, and SEPA. It has a topic, an issue of the summary, our staff recommendation, and then finally the Planning Commission recommendations. There are some where there is no recommendation, and that's to acknowledge some of the topics that we brought up either will be addressed in the future or simply weren't ready to be addressed or changed at this time. But just wanted to show you that this is the table that you'll see then again in the Board of County Commissioners deliberations with that column on the right. And I'll also add too, there will be other columns added as we're continuing to take comments on the documents. So here, what I'm going to present now are a bit of a summary of each of the deliverables, which is the Rural and Resource Lands chapter update, the proposed code updates, and then the reclassification request recommendations. I want to note too, having gone through the comprehensive plan process and going through a change matrix, we chose to put all of our changes in this format. The majority of them being through the Planning Commissions. There's some clarifying, like adding a definition or that kind of thing that the staff took upon themselves, but we chose to have an edit matrix go side by side with a clean document. So what you'll see for the deliverables are 3 clean documents, and they're all referred to as 2.0. So the Rural and Resource Lands chapter, as I mentioned earlier, is a part of the comprehensive plan, and with that, it has to follow a similar format as all of the other chapters in that plan. So this just shows how that looks with a vision, rural character, intent, GMA and regional coordination, and what have you. All those things are very similar, you know, with some differences, but for the most part matches all of it because this will then become part of our comprehensive plan. When we're going through our work and looking, of course, at 2012 to see what a standalone chapter looked like, but also looking at, you know, the feedback that was given through this comp plan and kind of identifying what's important to folks and the priorities that we have right now. These are the 5 umbrellas that we identified as being, I guess, the driving themes for the Rural and Resource Lands chapter. And then these were the edits since the 1.0 version that was published on September 2nd. So the following, and these are themes, but you can see the more specifics were added or edited to the chapter. So wildlife corridors and habitat connectivity, it was brought to our attention that we had omitted this. This was not intentional. So it was fully appreciated that several groups brought it to our attention and provided suggestions. So that has been added. rural walkability and bikeability, there was some additional discussion and deliberations to the Planning Commission on that. So that edit has been added. Tribal lands. So there was a request to add tribal lands to our rural and resource lands chapter to acknowledge the amount of land. And along with that, military installations also came up as something else to be added. Very different, however, both very important parts of Kitsap County. So you'll see those placeholders for those right now in the chapter, looking to fill more information on that hopefully in time for deliberations for us to discuss our methodology for that and also talk with our partners and on those topics. Equestrian facility has been added to the chapter. Once it was removed, the commercial equestrian facility code work was removed from the year of the rural. It was then added as a goal, policy, and strategy to the chapter. Also, edits were made by the Planning Commission to what was initially proposed by staff. There was some additional water resource clarification, so a particular policy was added. And then also I had mentioned some additional definitions that were also added. And then the following are items that were deliberated, but not changed at this time. Language about advisory councils, changes to the climate change element, because there's overlap with rural and resource lands and other elements, of course. And so there was a mention about the timber industry, cluster development, acknowledging that what was acknowledged in the comments is that's more of an urban tool. We're not suggesting in the chapter that to do anything further with it other than to analyze it and see how could it be used in the rural resource lands of Kitsap County. And then we're also acknowledging that that is a tool that's mentioned in the Growth Management Act. But we are also mentioning that it might not be a good fit for Kitsap County. And then finally, some requests for rural data analysis that we are not addressing in this chapter at this time, but are planning to address in a future rural lands analysis. 2 proposed code updates, agriculture and childcare. So with respect to agriculture, some were removed and some are still remaining. So the 2 that are still being considered includes storage and use of shipping containers allowed for agricultural purposes only. And I will say the suggestions, for the most part, have come through meetings and discussions with the agricultural community. And then there are a few, and one I'll get to in a moment, that did come from our own department. So I think we'll definitely continue to have conversations around these, even the ones that were removed. But the shipping container especially relates to economic viability for farmers and the fact that shipping containers can be used for refrigeration. And then the removal of the existing code limiting wineries as it relates to 4-ounce containers. And the feedback that was given on that is that's that's under state authority and to remove it from our local code. And then the following were removed or postponed for future discussion. It includes expansion of maximum allowed size of agricultural buildings without obtaining a building permit. It's currently 864 square feet, and they're hoping for more. There's examples in other counties where that is significantly higher. However, I think where we have tension here is we do not have agricultural zoning. So this is something for future discussion. Also, Kitsap County will notify adjacent property owners when land is enrolled in the open. So this was something that was proposed to replace current code related to notification. It's important to note, again, we don't have agricultural zoning, but forest resource lands and mineral resource lands do have a notification process like this. And this is about letting neighbors know that agriculture exists, but we just got to find the right fit for this. We didn't find the right fit just yet. And then the definition of gardens was proposed, and it was removed by the Planning Commission for further discussion. This particular one came up because gardens perhaps were being proposed on a lot that didn't have that the garden was the only use, and so it was being defined as primary agriculture. So we have some need for some clarification of that on that in the future. Childcare code, post Planning Commission deliberations. For the most part, everything is the same. Mainly what we did was allow it everywhere except industrial and greenbelt. And then where it was already allowed and had perhaps a bigger process, a CUP or an ACUP. We reduced that to a P to be permitted. And then we researched conditions of historic conditional use permits for childcare and for Montessori schools, and tried to create a predictable condition set that would help daycare centers throughout Kitsap County open. And the update to that is that the noise, where we got the noise, the starting and the ending of that was from those historic CUPs. However, we reverted back to making it consistent with Kitsap County noise code. The third deliverable are the reclassification requests. We have 3. So we started with 17 rural to rural, and the ones related to residential were removed, and we had 3 remaining, which includes rural wooded to rural, in this case, rural commercial. And that's the Scrobit McCormick request. And then we have what's app ID 58 requests from rural to go from rural residential to rural industrial, and that's the Moran application. And then we also have app ID 66, the Stokes Campbell request to go from rural protected to rural commercial. So the staff, the recommendation and the analysis for this deliverable is in the form of a staff report, and it follows Kitsap County Code 2108070 and those requirements through each application. And then this has been updated based on the Planning Commission process. And just a few highlights on each of these. So Planning Commission deliberations included comments, and the specific comments for each application is included in that staff report. And these are just some highlights: concern about intensification, concern about demonstration of lack of demonstrating unmet need. And then the Planning Commission recommendation, which also matched the staff recommendation, is approval as stated in the report. Moran is the next reclassification request, and Planning Commission deliberations included code compliance, and that's described in the staff report, and also acknowledging critical areas. And the Planning Commission recommendation, the example for this one, we did not initially give a recommendation, and we asked for Planning Commission's recommendation on this, with some guidance from us, but conditional approval that includes the parcel to the north of the subject property. And you can see here, if the reclassification request were to be approved alone, it would leave that property to the north an island. And the owner, the same owner owns both properties. So the Planning Commission did make the recommendation with a condition of also reclassifying the rural wooded, or the rural residential, property to the north also to rural industrial. And it is a business that overlaps with both. And finally, we have the Stokes Campbell request. So this is the Planning Commission deliberations, including in these topics that came from the community, is a concern about critical areas. So I think an important maps to look at when you're looking at the staff report are the critical area maps. Also looking not only at the current zoning, but also the current use. That was another helpful tool for us, because sometimes if you see rural residential around, which actually the uses can sometimes be different than what you would expect. Previous denials, so this particular request in some form had 3 previous denials that we noted and was noted by comments, and then also wondering about change in circumstances. So we we're addressing that, and it addresses now in the report that the gas station has been built since 2016 to the south. So, and then also our critical areas ordinance has been updated. So the Planning Commission recommendation here is approval as stated in the report. That includes a condition. So the condition that we included here, there's 5 parcels that are being requested for reclassification, and our recommendation is the northeast parcel be removed from that reclassification. Also, this is a recommendation, not a condition, but to aggregate the parcels to make this developable. And finally, we have the public process and next steps. So our public comment period ends today, November 10th and November 12th. So then we have holiday tomorrow, and then November 12th. Those public comments will be posted on our project webpage in like the raw format with the tables and the appendixes, or I should say attachments. We try to get that done as soon as possible. The next part that takes a couple days and more process is analyzing and summarizing those. It makes it just more digestible for everybody. And we'll use that then to weave in the highlighted comments and concerns into that deliberations table for discussion with you all on November 24th. So the Board of County Commissioner next steps is the deliberations on the 24th and then potential adoption on December 8th. And I'll close it. I'm happy to answer any questions and look forward to testimonies from the community.
Any questions? Good. Thank you for that overview, Heather. Right. Shall we open up the public hearing? Okay. We're opening up the public hearing. As I said, I'm going to call people in the order in which they signed up in the room, and then we'll go to online. So I'll call a few people so you can be ready. The first person that I have is Jeff Stokes, then Craig Campbell, Beverly Parsons, and Robin Salthouse.
Turn this on. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jeff Stokes. As you may remember, my topic is about the reconsiderations that Ms. Cleveland has put forward. Before I respond to that, I've been a resident since 1967. Have owned the property out here for 4 or 5 decades. As you know, my father bought Stokes Auction Acres in 1974. And in 1979, we were the first property owner to fence off Burley Creek to protect the cows from feeding in the creek. Since that time, we now have 53 acres and all of those acres are fenced off. I've also worked with the USDA to build a cattle manure containment shed over on my property on 2740 Spring Creek Road. We have worked with the 4-H and FFA since 1974 and helping those children. I most recently built the Shell gas station that was all already mentioned, and really grateful for the community support. My comment today is about the removal of parcel number 242-301-2-024-2008. Can only be said that quick by an auctioneer. That complete removal of that parcel gives me a pause to say that the complete removal of that said parcel really doesn't give us the ability to do some averaging that I think that is a part of our hopes. And we would hope that instead of taking that complete parcel, that we back that up what feels like 40 feet, 30 feet, but I would like to put it into writing, but it was really with the spirit of buffer averaging, and I think that's vital to our success. We agree with you wanting to pull that off, but yet that hard line could give us troubles later on a very small piece of property that would remain. Also know that we're working with WashDOT on the very same parcel. WashDOT has been tramping all over that parcel to identify the creek, and the Stokes family has supported the preservation of the creek, and our actions tell the truth. So my request would be not that hard line, but a reconsideration that allowed us for buffer averaging, especially in that critical area that this hard line you're suggesting. So lastly, I'm not standing for you in a spirit of conflict in any way, but a request of good conversation will lead to a good resolve. And my neighbor, Craig Campbell, and I have both owned these properties for 3, 4, and 5 decades, and we are committed to keep our creek healthy and clean. And thank you.
Thank you. Craig Campbell? Okay, thank you. Beverly Parsons, and then Robin Salthouse, April Ryan, Stacy Marshall.
Got it. Okay, I'm Beverly Parsons from Hansville. I'm on the board of the Kitsap Environmental Coalition, KEC, and I'm speaking tonight on its behalf. First, a word of thanks to Heather Cleveland for her leadership and to the Planning Commission for their responsiveness to public comments that was indicated earlier. Last week, KEC submitted written comments with the following areas of emphasis. First of all, establishment of wildlife corridors and habitat connectivity with attention to multiple species and maintaining functional corridors. Second is protection of our critical areas with emphasis on water quality and quantity. Third was non-motorized transportation with emphasis on connecting communities for accessibility, safety, and social coherence. The next was the establishment and maintenance of a strong agricultural advisory council to help ensure a resilient local food system. This council needs to be established as soon as possible so they can play a central role in code development and revisions. Then next, in our review of the reclassification requests, we focused on environmental impacts, legal mandates, and consistency with the Kitsap County Code. While we recognize that reclassifications may sometimes be appropriate, the county code requires, to our understanding, that all criteria be met, a standard which these requests did not fulfill. Therefore, we oppose the 3 proposed reclassification requests. So you can see our written comments for details of our analysis. And finally, we urge you, once this chapter is adopted, to conduct regular, transparent reviews of the chapter's implementation. This is essential to turn goals, policies, and strategies into real-world outcomes. You'll hear more from individual KAC members this evening on several of these points. Thank you for your consideration of our comments.
Thank you, Bev. Robin.
Good evening. I'm Robin Salthouse from Kingston. Thank you for all the work that has been done to prepare the rural and resource lands element for the updated comprehensive plan. I really appreciate the process used to engage the public and the ability to comment on the chapter through its various completion stages. In particular, I'd like to talk about goals 13.3, 0.4, and 0.5, which have been created to protect natural ecosystems and resources in the rural areas, including ground and surface waters, through the development of watershed plans, understanding the management capacity and regulatory compliance of rural water systems, and protect natural areas contributing to aquifer recharge. These goals are imperative to protect both the county's water quantity and quality. I asked the Board of County Commissioners to fund and to establish a county-wide monitoring system like the Bainbridge Groundwater Management Plan. This action will provide the strategy to achieve understanding of water quality and quantity. The Island Lake Aquifer, with a focus on Royal Valley, the southern edge of the Island Lake Aquifer, would be a good place to start modeling and projecting water withdrawal and precipitation levels. This area has been permitted for more intense development, which should be monitored to determine how the growing impact on the water supply will affect one of the county's major aquifers. Aggregating and reporting the collected data at one Kitsap County website location will make this information easily accessible for both Kitsap County staff and the public. Numerous public members voiced their concerns for the future of Kitsap County's finite water supply and to ensure water quality isn't eroded as a safe and healthy resource. Being proactive with funded work to follow through on Goal 13 will ensure access to water for all Kitsap residents and prevent missing data of receding aquifer levels and alert the county about unsafe water as discovered at the Bangor Naval Base PFA contaminated wells that have raised a lifetime health advisory. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. April? And then after April is Stacy, Diane Fish, and Bob Gamal.
Good evening. This is April Ryan. Thank you for giving this focused attention to rural Kitsap, especially the need for an agricultural advisory council to represent the agricultural community. However, it appears that the wording in the draft plan was reversed. It currently reads, form an agricultural advisory council to inform the agricultural community about development of future policies and regulations and act as a resource to farmers regarding incentives and other assistance programs. This is the reverse of what the relationship should be. The agricultural community should be informing the Board of Commissioners about issues relating to agriculture and suggesting future policies and regulations for improving the status of agriculture in the county. Also, because agricultural and equestrian practices are closely related, the Agricultural Advisory Council should be recognized as a stakeholder in the future equestrian code planning. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Stacy.
Good evening, County Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be up here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I also want to say thank you to Heather. I have been in the Ag Working Group Steering Committee the last many months, and just want to acknowledge the tremendous amount of history and data that she has had as part of her workload. So I know all of us are grateful. So my name is Stacy Marshall, and I'm coming into my 10th year as a commercial cut flower grower based out of Paulsbo. And I'm here as the public outreach lead for the Kitsap Farmland Preservation Coalition. We were formed 3 years ago in response to the 2024 Comprehensive Plan update and subsequently the Year of the Rural Addendum. So just to make clear, our group has submitted several pages of comments through the county website relating to 3 distinct meta-level issues, which would move our county in the direction of meaningful support for farms and farmland. First, the Ag Advisory Council. Second, the farmland preservation strategies in the rural chapter. And third, land use compatibility. So I hope that you commissioners have an opportunity to take a look at that because there was a lot of effort put into those comments. I have volunteered with KFPC in this role for 3 years with the hope that our county elected officials, County Planning Commission, and the DCD might listen to our farming community, build consensus and support for a long-term plan for ensuring what little farmland we have left. A meaningful plan to support agriculture requires both an Ag Advisory Council and strong language supportive of agricultural land and practices. And we've not seen this support or commitment yet. I'm going to speak off of my notes here for a minute. This issue of farmland preservation, I didn't expect that I would do this. It matters so much to me. The amount that we tried to get through and get done in such a short amount of time was impossible. I urge you to consider an Ag Advisory Council so that they can take the time to advocate for farmers and farmland in future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Diane? And then after Diane is Bob, Carissa Holcomb, and Kim Van Cleve.
Good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Diane Fish. I'm a Farm and Resource Planner at Kitsap Conservation District, and I am sharing remarks from the Kitsap Conservation District Board of Supervisors with regard to the Year of the Rural. We appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts about this and appreciate the work that has gone into the process thus far. The first concern that we have is that there are several references to Kitsap Conservation District in the draft chapter and the equestrian code, which has been deferred, but we strongly request that all references to the district placing it in a regulatory role are removed, and we have provided suggested language in our written comments that have already been submitted. The second thing is that we strongly advocate for the adoption by resolution of a Citizens Advisory Council, specifically an Agricultural Advisory Council, to advise the Board of County Commissioners and policymakers on issues impacting agriculture and farming. At this point, an Agricultural Advisory Council, as well as a Forest Advisory Council, represents an important step in supporting these rural businesses. The primary role, as has already been stated, should be to inform the Board of County Commissioners regarding issues important and of concern for their respective constituencies. And so we strongly advocate for that and the establishment as soon as possible. Then we also support agricultural and rural business viability by taking a really balanced view towards land use compatibility. Especially in rural areas, specifically in Kitsap, as we do not have agricultural zoning. All rural zones allow residential uses as well as rural businesses, and it's emerged as a focus in this process and the proposed code changes. As written, land use codes frequently unduly burden rural businesses, including equestrian facilities, farms, and other agricultural businesses, by encumbering them with the responsibility for maintaining harmonious neighbor relationships. We strongly advocate education of rural residents about what goes on in rural zones and advocate for a workable notification process. We also strongly encourage the expanded use under the permit exempt agricultural structures to include additional agricultural practices like wash and pack facilities for vegetable farmers. And finally, we would like to request that agriculture be included as a permitted and allowed use in rural zones, rural commercial zones specifically. Currently, agriculture is not a permitted use in the RCO zone, which limits the ability of perhaps a farm-to-table restaurant or a food processor to grow and produce food on site as on a parcel that they might have that's zoned RCO. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Bob?
I'm Bob Jabal.
Let's wait 1 second. She needs to, you got it? Okay, go ahead, Bob. Welcome.
I got an extra 5 seconds.
You do.
I'm Bob Jabal. I'm the board president of the Kitsap Community and Agricultural Alliance. And our mission is to support agriculture through the county and foster connections between the community, the larger community, and the agricultural community. And implicit in that is the understanding that agriculture is crucial to a viable and delightful environment for all residents of Kitsap County. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, and I want to express appreciation and amazement at the amount of work that Heather has done. The KCAA acknowledges that. I'm also going to sound a little bit like an echo chamber in a moment. First of all, we have a number of comments that we have submitted through the website, and Heather will provide those to you, I'm sure. But I want to talk specifically to some extent about what April and Stacy have mentioned about the description of the Agriculture Advisory Council. We see that as crucial going forward for the county. Right now, the current wording in the Rural and Resource Land Strategy 5C reads as follows: form an agriculture advisory council to inform the agricultural community about the development of future policies and regulations and act as a resource to farmers regarding incentives and other assistance programs. To use an agricultural term, that is ass backwards. The reading should be something closer to this. The Ag Advisory Council would advise commissioners and staff on key agricultural matters, including policy, land use, and economic opportunities, while serving as a collaborative forum for stakeholders to shape the long-term sustainability and reliance of the county's agricultural community. That's really how it should read, and I hope that you adopt that and alter the wording in version 2.0. That's all I have to say. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bob, was that exact wording included in the comments that you submitted?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Because I was typing fast, but I couldn't get it all.
Heather's.
Heather's nodding feverishly.
All right, Kim Van Cleve, then Al Van Cleve, and then Rob Newby. But first is Carissa Holcomb. Oh, Carissa, I'm sorry, Carissa. And then Kim.
Okay, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you, Heather, for your partnership and your guidance and all of the work you've done during the year of the rule. My name is Carissa Holcomb, and I serve as the Vice President of the Kitsap Community and Agricultural Alliance. However, tonight I'm speaking as an agricultural stakeholder. My husband Gino and I own and operate Happy Grounds Farm and Animal Sanctuary in Paulsbo. Today, I'd like to speak on the Agricultural Advisory Council's timeline. Since 2004, Kitsap's agricultural community has been waiting for the formation of an Ag Advisory Council, which would serve as a united voice by and for the farmers of this county. For 21 years, this has been discussed, referenced, and promised. The time has come to finally act. I respectfully request that by the end of 2025, the county provide a clear timeline for establishing this council, and that formation of the group occur within the next 6 months at the latest. Please hold yourselves accountable to the agricultural community by committing to a firm date. Once farmland is gone, it's gone forever. Thank you for giving it a chance to endure. And thank you for your time and your attention to this long overdue step. Unexpectedly, I'm also speaking tonight for my friend and fellow farmer, Scott Hall, who is unable to be here in person due to an illness. So he's asked me to read the following statement. Scott's statement reads, I understand that updating an entire rural and resource lands chapter is a difficult task to take on. There is so much to do and so little time to do it. Fortunately, it looks like Kitsap County may finally be getting an agricultural advisory council in the near future. With this council, Kitsap County will be able to work on some of the topics affecting agriculture that we were not able to fully address during the year of the rule. If I am lucky enough to find a place on this council, I will dedicate myself to ensuring this council has the focus and clarity to identify and minimize impediments to the long-term viability of agriculture in Kitsap County. Thank you, Scott Hall, and also thank you, me.
Carissa, before you sit down, I had, it looks like Gino Holcomb signed up, but maybe it was you for Scott to speak for Scott Hall.
It was to speak for Scott, but he signed up on the wrong sheet, so he has about 25 people ahead of him. So you can just cross his name off and check that.
Oh, no, he's still on here. I see him in a different place. So I was just clarifying that.
But he doesn't need, I already read for him. He's good.
Gino's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Kim, welcome.
Thank you. So in listening to the Year of the Rule meeting this afternoon, my comments are going to reflect what I could hear of that. It was a little bit difficult to hear, however, so I'm hoping I understood the conversation correctly. So I was struck by several things. First of all, some of the issues that the county seems to be attempting to regulate, such as childcare in rural areas and equestrian facilities. These sound like issues that should be able to only have to get the county involved when neighbors can't work out their own issues. And it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to regulate everyone in the whole county because some neighbors can't deal with their concerns. I live in a rural area. My neighbor has a barn, had a horse paddock directly adjacent to my property. There were never any issues. And anytime I've needed to discuss anything that I think my neighbors might be concerned with that's going on over in my house or my property, we've always been able to work it out. So I think it's there, farms, the rural aspect is always included things. It's kind of a vague term and it implies things like farms and all the trappings that go along with it. So it seems like people who move into the area should be able to adapt instead of the other way around. Imposing, in the broader sense of property rights, imposing restrictions on future property owners, and there was a discussion about changing codes and having them grandfathered in for current property owners, but being okay for future property, not acceptable for future property owners. It decreases the value of the land. And so if I can't sell my property as I'm currently able to use it to the next owner, then my property has effectively been devalued as my buyer pool has become severely limited. No one would want to pay what I may have otherwise gotten for it if it's in essence worthless, and property rights are guaranteed by the 5th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Clearly, the Year of the Rural Plan was written by people who aren't farmers, apparently, as demonstrated by the public response. It sounded like in the meeting that was a concern, that there was so much done on the plan before there was any kind of comment from farmers. And lastly, Kitsap County doesn't really have a very good track record in terms of grandfathering in land use, which is in the case of the Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Range. It was legally promised being grandfathered in 30 years ago in the 90s as an operating rifle range, and actually this grandfathering has been denied to the Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Range. Any property who is under the impression, legally or otherwise, that their property is grandfathered in by the county should take heed of the cautionary tale of the Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Range. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Al.
On the wrong list, I'll wait.
Oh, okay. I'll move you over. Okay. Rob Newby. Okay. No need to speak on Year of the Rural, is that? Okay. All right, Jerry Van Fossen. Jerry, are you here? Okay. Dawn, I always say your name wrong. Owen? Okay.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Dawn Owen, and I am a facility owner, and I'm part of the equestrian working group for the Year of the Rural. I'm here to speak in defense of Kitsap County's agricultural and equestrian community. They are the small farms, stables, and rural families who form the heart of our community. In recent meetings, important questions and concerns have been raised regarding the Year of the Rural, mostly that it reflects a very familiar pattern, a regulatory solution in search of a problem. The majority of Kitsap's farms and facilities already operate responsibly, following established, we all follow established best management practices, conservation plans, and state right to farm laws. These operations aren't industrial polluters or nuisance sites. They are local farms, and we are stewards of open space. In fact, over the past 2 decades, our large parcels and working farms have actually declined by more than 50%. The answer to that trend isn't more red tape. It's actually smarter, balanced policy, not new layers of conditional permits or arbitrary setbacks that will only address isolated cases of incompatibility. Other Western Washington counties like Pierce, Skagit, and Whatcom County, they recognize equestrian activities as bona fide agriculture and allow them as a matter of right in rural zones. Kitsap should do the same. We can protect water quality and rural character without extensive regulation. The Year of the Rural should be about trust. Trust in good agricultural practices, in landowners who care for their animals and their land, and in a county that values rural life as much as it values growth. And there's plenty of that going on. I urge you to adopt reforms that reflect the balance and not the bias, and policy that supports the people who keep our rural landscapes alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Don. Next is Jody or Judy Logue, then Aaron Logue and Tony Mora. The Logues are good?
Yeah.
Oh, I talk.
Is that Aaron Logue? Is that Aaron Logue speaking? Okay. Okay, Judy Logue is good. Hi, Aaron.
I don't know if he wants me to now. Aaron Logue, thank you for putting together, this process of the year, the rule. What a lot of work. Yeah. Kitsap County is the only county in Washington that does not have farming zoning designation. It's interesting that, King County, Pierce County, Lewis County, counties that house all of our state legislature have these things sorted out, but we do not have these things sorted out. I'll echo what a lot of my friends are saying, that we do strongly suggest that an ag advisory council be created with real, genuine, working, entrepreneurial farmers sitting on it that actually know their business and how to make things pencil and function and be a stakeholder in advising the county of what works and what doesn't work. It is interesting. I didn't realize that this had been attempting to be created for 21 years. That's horrible. I mean, that's pathetic. And as a county, I don't assume that we're pathetic, and I think it'd be important to make good progress on that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Tony? Okay, Tony seconds Aaron's comments. Okay. Cynthia Mora? You're good?
I signed her up.
It is the same handwriting. I will recognize that. Okay. And Jerry Van Fossen again. Jerry is not here. Okay. Alicia Horston? She's not here. Okay. And then Marcus Carter. Did you want to speak to Year of the Rural?
Yes.
Okay.
And thank you, commissioners. I so appreciate what you have to go through. A lot has been dished out to you on your plate, the Growth Management Act, et cetera, et cetera. The reading through the resolution of whereas, the state growth management mandates, the state growth management mandates that we do this and that. I would prefer and would love to see and would imagine you would get a lot of positive response if it started off with something like, whereas our oath to the Constitution mandates that we protect the individual rights of the citizens of our community. We are hereby going to protect the rights of Stokes to do what they want on their property so long as they're not violating somebody else's life, liberty, or property. And that each one of the property owners that have started businesses, et cetera, should be allowed to do whatever it is they want to do, whether I agree with it or not, so long as they're not violating somebody else's life, liberty, or property. Your oath is about protecting our rights, but everything I read here, and as has been said as backwards, is the idea that the county is going to tell us what to expect to have rammed down our throats, when the county should be saying, what can we do to protect your rights to use your property as you see fit? So I would strongly recommend that you look very hard at our own state constitution, Article 1, Section 1, and that you also understand that deprivation of rights under color of law is a federal felony. So do not take people's rights away because of some claimed GMA mandate. Your job is clear. is that it's to protect our rights. Although there seems to be a conflict as well in that I also understand that you're also officers of a not-for-profit corporation called the Community Development Corporation. And that there seems to be, that seems to be a real conflict to me, that you're supposed to represent us and do our will, but at the same time, you're officers of a corporation that is set up to restrict people's rights to use their property. That's a conflict of interest in, I don't see why more people don't see that. So again, I want us to be successful. I want you to be successful. We have a wonderful county. I trust these people to do on their property what they want to do. The Stokes have proven that they loved our county and our environment. Most of these people that have these businesses have as well. Protect their right to use their property. Stand up to the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcus, you know where to reach us. I do not know what you're referring to as the Community Development Corporation. So can you shoot us whatever you're referring to? There's a bunch of things we sit on. I want to make sure we know what you're referring to.
I'll send you a brief.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Marla Powers, are you here? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Marla Powers. I'm an environmental planner for the Port Gamble-Sklallam Tribe. A document published in Northwest Indian Fishery Commission in July of 2011 called Tribal Treaty Rights at Risk states that habitat loss and degradation are the biggest contributors to the decline of the salmon resource. This is still a factor 14 years later and shows no sign of slowing down. Preservation of rural character is preservation from development and therefore supports aspects of reserved tribal treaty rights. The new rural resource land element speaks to preservation of open space, natural landscapes, farmland, and vegetation. But this proposal is incomplete without changes to the zoning code to implement those goals and policies. The proposal is also incomplete with sections yet to be added without public review or public comment. The tribe asked for changes in the number of acres of rural residential protection and wooded, and that request has been acknowledged by staff. However, the tribe is still interested in getting that information, maybe not just with your study. On page 5 of the element, tribal lands have been acknowledged, and that was a request that we submitted. But we would also like to add that the county has an obligation to protect treaty reserved resources that go beyond cultural resources. And we'd also ask that in that element that is called out which tribes and types of representations the county staff met with. On page 17, the Port Gamble-Sklallam supports the Suquamish tribe's comments related to rural densities that can be sustained by a rural level of service, not just a minimum level of service. And that will not individually or cumulatively create the future necessity or expectation of urban levels of service. So keeping things rural and minimal. Cluster development is a rural development tool. However, this type of development often looks and feels like urban development, and this should not be considered an option. However, staff has added clustering may be allowed where appropriate, which is very general. So if that is the case, please ensure that any rural cluster proposal contains detailed information on how the project complies with GMA and previous hearings board decisions regarding rural character and sprawl. We'd also like to see a disincentive for accessory dwelling units in rural areas. This is an area that could be more refined rather than just ADUs. It could include, other uses that people really need in rural areas. And there could be an opportunity to work through some of those and refine those details a little bit more. And finally, wildlife corridors are extremely important to the tribe, and we look forward to working with county staff on wildlife corridor mapping and policies. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that I think is everybody signed up. Let's see, Casey Patton, did you have something to say about Year of the Rural? Okay.
Yes, Commissioners, my name's Casey Patton. I'm from Bremerton, and I had a question or there's a doubt in my mind. I came in here in '84 and from Southern California, and that's where the deserts are. And I used to say how beautiful the browns were until I actually came up here and saw what beautiful country looks like. And one of the first things that people said to me whenever they first came up here is that with all the dams that we have and the hydroelectric energy, and we also had some nuclear at that time frame, we had a surplus of electricity that we were actually selling to other states. On the course of time that I've been here, we've went ahead and removed some of the dams, we've stopped the nuclear, and one of the things that I remember from the growth management conversations I had from between 16 and 19 whenever I was coming here was that people that had 15, 20, 30 acres, they wanted to go ahead and subdivide and develop to go ahead and enhance their retirements. It was said that they could not do that. Again, that was with their own property. But yet now as I turn around and I see other people that are saying when they develop various apartments, condominiums, multifamily dwellings, before they get permits for that, they're supposed to be able to go ahead and mitigate a whole bunch of other criteria in the sense that everything that they developed is supposed to be self-sustained or anything for their water, their electricity, their sewer, and everything else when they build that development. And I thought that was supposed to be part of the Growth Management Act to ensure that the developers would mitigate any conflicts that they might have to make sure that everything was going to be sustained. But yet now I'm hearing something about the sewers. They need to go ahead and raise the fees because it wasn't planned properly or some of the other things. And now anytime you see a rural road in this county, there's a butt ton of condominiums, apartments, or developments going on, multifaceted, or houses built elbow to elbow, like we used to say in California, where they can't hardly breathe. They've destroyed the forest. They've destroyed the land that actually promotes climate change, and because the trees take a lot of the dirty air out. I'm wishing that for like the equestrians and the agriculture, that you go ahead, and I've seen several farms along Waga Way that used to be there, and now they've been destroyed because the county changed properties to allow the development to go ahead and build 400 or 500 units there, and there went some more pristine, beautiful farmland. I'd rather see farmland than I had concrete, asphalt, and buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Jeremy, did you want to speak to Year of the Rural? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jeremy Annenson, and I am honored to speak on behalf of the Washington Farm Bureau. I'm a lifelong resident of Kitsap County and a first-generation rancher with a deep desire to see multiple generations continue in the agricultural business right here in our community. We could have moved away 10 years ago, even 20 years ago, but we have chose to make Kitsap our home. We want our kids and future grandkids to carry on the tradition of raising livestock and caring for our community as producers right here in Kitsap County. We also want our children to experience the value and responsibility of caring for the animals they raise and the land they steward. Agricultural stakeholders in Kitsap County are not being well represented. Too often we are dismissed from committees and advisory groups that shape county codes and regulations. For us, the number one priority in remaining in this county is economic viability for agricultural producers. Farmers and ranchers have long been the backbone of rural Kitsap County. Yet for many years, agricultural stakeholders have not been at the table. We have been undermined and excluded from committees and working groups where our voices should matter. We ask our county to recognize the value of agricultural stakeholders, people whose lives and livelihoods are tied to the land, and who want to see multi-generational families remain in Kitsap, preserving the rural character that makes this place so special. It's vital that farmers and ranchers in Kitsap County have a voice on any agricultural council to represent those directly impacted by the county codes that affect agriculture. We need those seats at the table. Our voices matter in crafting policies that allow us and future generations to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right, and Rob Newby, you said no. Okay. John Willett. And then Dana will, John is the last person I have signed up for Year of the Rural here, so then we'll go online. Welcome.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Heather and Jim, for your work on Year of the Rural. I want to thank the commissioners for doing this project in the first place. Here tonight, I've been hearing a lot about agriculture. One thing we haven't talked about is forest management. I was on the, helped start the Forest Management Board for the Kitsap County Parks. I was a co-founder of Kitsap Forest and Bay Coalition that bought a lot of land for our parks. And multiple other things in Eastern Washington also. I've been involved with C6, which is environmental way of taking forest products and then reconstituting them into usable things. What I would really like to see here tonight is for the commissioners to consider not only an agricultural board committee, a CAC, but also a forest management board. We have one for the parks. I think we should have one also for the county, where we put together our stakeholders and talk about how are we going to move forward with our forest management. Not only in forest management for logging and so forth, but in a sustainable manner. We're doing that with our county parks right now, and we're making money out of thinning and making our forests more diverse and making also those forests more friendly to habitat and to critters that would run around and stuff. So I would like to see that the commissioners consider that. And I really like hearing the agriculture stuff myself. I'm very involved with agriculture myself and have been all my life. But I was also worked for the U.S. Forest Service in silviculture, planting trees and doing other management and falling trees and stuff like that. So I know a little bit about that. And so please consider also the Forest CAC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. All right, Anna. Anna Dukes, I should say. I'm sorry, I missed you.
I came in late. Thanks for adding me. Hi, my name is Anna Dukes. I'm a resident from East Bremerton who likes riding horses and eating fresh local food. First, I would want to thank you for deferring the equestrian zoning changes. We really needed more time. And that decision has increased my faith in the political process of this county. So truly thank you for that. Tonight, I would like to ask the commissioners to seat an agricultural advisory council. As you know, Kitsap County has no agriculture zone in the code. This means our farms have no choice but to exist within the rural zones. Our farms serve a vital role in our community. I'm not sure if anyone else has noticed, but our national and international economic and political systems are pretty volatile right now. Having a thriving local food supply is the most important thing we could do to increase the resilience of our communities. I have 3 specific requests. 1, please seat the Agriculture Advisory Council. 2, add detailed strategies on farmland preservation to the rural chapter. Actually, I'm an optimist, so let's go for farmland expansion. And 3, find additional ways to protect our farms who are following best practices from nuisance complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dana, who do we have online?
Yes, first up we have Martha Burke.
Martha, welcome.
Martha, there you go.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Martha Burke. I live in Suquamish, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to make these comments. And I want to thank Heather for all the hard work she's done in putting this together. I understand that in 2026, the county plans to update the rural lands analysis. Since this work hasn't been updated in over 10 years, I strongly support that proposal. You cannot plan for the future if you don't know what actually exists on the ground. The main output of the analysis should be an improved database using the best, most up-to-date, scientifically accurate data on wetlands, streams, wildlife corridors, and other information incorporated into the publicly available interactive maps. There are more current data available in some of these categories that the county is not using, including some from the Wildfish Conservancy, and publicly available maps currently do not show the buffer outlines that would be useful to determine how a site can be used, as well as areas suitable for future protection. In addition to incorporating other official data, the county should collect any additional technical studies that may be submitted as part of permit proposals so that that information can be accessed in the future. Some of the cities in Kitsap, such as Paulsbo, may provide examples as well as data in terms of publicly available maps. That's my comments, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha.
Next up, we have Beth.
Hi, this is Doug Heyman using Beth's computer. Yeah, I wanted to voice my opposition to the reclassification of the Moran property of the three. It's encumbered by both wetland and stream. It's had multiple violations, and they shouldn't be rewarded with not only being approved for the reclassification, but then being tagged to add on reclassification to the property to the north. That ignores the environmental concerns altogether. I had sent all three of you commissioners information. I'd request to be added to the Kitsap County GIS portal so that we have accurate mapping of wetlands and in particular streams. When I took a GIS class at Olympic College last fall, I could not find the downloadable for streams, and my instructor said, "Oh, search for this, search for that term, search for this term." And he was kind of dumbfounded that there was nothing that was available when there's all these other layers to add to a map. And in my letter, I also pointed out the accuracy and the buffers that are shown for Paulsbo dating back to 2009 when they had maps. You can currently click on a whole variety of other critical areas, but when you search and you select all of the critical areas, you see nothing that indicates what the stream buffers are. Used to be 150 foot for a fish-bearing stream, now 200 feet. And it would help people make informed decisions when they're deciding property to buy and develop on, to see that, oh, this property is completely encumbered by a fish stream buffer. Therefore, I'm going to pick that other property instead. And that way there wouldn't be the need for variances and further degradation of the environment. And finally, I'd like to see the county do more in terms of enforcement of these critical areas, whether it's wetlands or stream buffers, in terms of when there's a variance granted to somebody, there should be, adequate enforcement to make sure that the people who have been granted, in some cases, 80, 90% buffer reductions, that those people's there's a follow-up to ensure that those people are complying so that we're protecting the last of these important critical areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
Next up, we have Joe Lubisher.
Thanks. Dovetail on her. Yeah, I had to kind of shift.
Joe, you can unmute. There you go.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Joe Lubisher, live in Indianola, and 3 relatively quick comments. One is general support for bringing the agricultural community in out of the dark. Secondly, wanted to comment, Heather Cleveland, I believe at one point mentioned looking to the county mapping for identifying critical areas and their buffers. And want to make the point that the databases, the mapping are incomplete. And right now the county is using those as a decision-making tool. And the problem is the old quote about absence of proof is not proof of absence. So there need to be some changes made in how the maps are being used. In other words, we need to give consideration to the fact that they're not perfect, and there need to be other ways to protect the critical areas. The GMA says protect the critical areas. It does not say protect critical areas that are mapped. Third point, I wanted to support Robin Salthouse's earlier comments and give an underlying reason for doing the water monitoring. When you go to permit large water uses or large developments, there is nothing in the critical areas code or in the permitting process that is concerned with the condition of our aquifers. All that's required is that the purveyors say they can supply water. And the purveyors, of course, have a certain they're not just looking to preserve the aquifer, they're also looking to develop the resource, and there's a bit of a conflict in that. Given that situation and given the increasing development pressures in the county, I see developing better groundwater monitoring as a critical step towards ensuring the long-term viability of our groundwater resources. And of course, it's not just for productive use, it's also for maintaining our stream flows, in some cases wetlands. And once you've lost these things, it's very difficult to get them back. So I would urge you to to really highlight the importance of our water resources in the current planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
And last person I have raising their hand is Carol. Oh, someone else just raised their hand. But Carol, you can go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. First, thanks to Heather Cleveland and her staff for their work on the Year of the Rural. I'm Carol Price and have lived on Pioneer Hill north of Paulsville for the last 30 years. Tonight, I urge you to deny all 3 of the proposed reclassifications that are part of the YOTR, but I'll focus on the Moran property since my home is a few miles from the 12 Trees Industrial Park and the Moran property. This property is being considered for reclassification from rural res to rural industrial. I urge the commissioners to deny the application for rezone to the Moran property for the following reasons. The county staff report is incomplete. The proposed rezone changes will give a huge economic benefit to the applicant while violating the state's GMA, the Clean Water Act, and various RCWs and county ordinances. Even as the owners of this property are seeking this rezone, they have an ongoing code enforcement on their adjacent property. In the event the commissioners grant the rezone, the decision is very likely to be reversed on appeal, potentially with costs assessed against the county. Why reward violation of the law? Please deny this application for rezone on the Moran property. Property owners may have rights, but they have responsibilities too. And I am disappointed that the Planning Commission passed these reclassifications. And for my last point, I'm in full support of the Kitsap Community and Agricultural Alliance's 5 points regarding agricultural lands. Farmlands deserve protection. They're vital to the resiliency of our Kitsap community. And the Year of the Rural certainly is an appropriate opportunity to address agricultural land and the formation of an agricultural advisory council. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Next up, we have Annie Braddock. Braddock.
I'm going to ask if folks who are online who wish to speak, could you please raise your hand so Dana has a sense of how many people are waiting to speak? Welcome, Annie.
Hi there, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, hi. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Annie Braddock. I've been in North Kitsap for almost 16 years, and I'm an avid equestrian and a new rural residential property owner outside of Paulsbo as of this year. I'm also a member of the Equestrian Working Group in Kitsap County, and would like to thank the commissioners for the extra time we've been granted to discuss and work out the equestrian facility code. I do want to also lend my support to what the Farmland Preservation Coalition is advocating for, and specifically, I strongly support the formation of an agricultural advisory council, a permanent group of experts to advise the county on issues related to all agricultural activities, not just a temporary working group or a steering committee. I imagine this would provide much better proposals during years of code revision, resulting in less conflict and more trust between the county and the rural community. It's disappointing to learn that in a county that, likes to say it treasures its rural properties and rural history, we still don't have a permanent ag advisory council after well over a decade of it being proposed and advocated for. Secondly, it's hard to not feel like, as a rural residential property owner and being a friend with many people who own farms, barns, equestrian facilities, you feel like you're on the defensive now, as all of these new developments are coming in, and we have a lot of new residents coming into the county, which is wonderful, but they're coming here. This is a rural county. They're moving into homes that are next to properties that are clearly zoned as rural residential or zoned for agricultural purposes. And then it seems that there's a lot of credence given to their complaints for the agricultural properties doing what they're zoned to do. And it would be nice to feel, and this is how I feel, but it would be nice to feel that the county supports the agricultural groups and the agricultural properties as much as they do the small property, single family homes, and their complaints against the properties that are established there and working well within what they're zoned to do. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to continue working with the county over the next, 6 to however many months with the Equestrian Working Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
And that is all we have online that's raising their hand.
Okay. All right, with that, I am going to close the public hearing on the ordinance relating to growth management, amending the comprehensive plan and map, and amendments to Title 17, commonly known as Year of the Rural. That public hearing is closed. How's that as for a powerful closed? Okay. Now, the next and last item on our second to last item on our agenda is Dana. The opportunity for the public to address.
Well, I need to know, are you continuing this matter to the 24th for decision only?
Yes, we are continuing it to the 24th for decision only.
Okay, for deliberations and decision only.
Right.
And that will be at 3 p.m. during your PM briefing. And then also After that, you will continue it to your regular business meeting at night, correct? Is that?
Yeah, so November 24th, we'll be discussing it, sitting down with staff, going through chapter by chapter. We won't be making like a final decision. That's a work session. So we're continuing this to that date. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And then I have a process question. As people continue to send us their comments, do we continue to send them to the comp plan?
Yes, the official comment period has closed as of today, but yes, still continue, for the record, you can continue to forward it there. It's great to have have it all in one place.
Okay, but for the purposes of you guys compiling it into a spreadsheet, today was the last day.
That is correct.
Okay.
The comment period ends today.
Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. All right, so next.
Opportunity for the public to address the board on general interests.
Okay, so I have a bunch of people signed up here. And this is a 2-minute conversation. The first person on the agenda is Andrew Olson.
I guess I gotta wait for the green light. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, I'll run with it.
Welcome.
Hey, commissioners, good evening. I loved hearing all the rural stuff. I used to live in Seattle and I don't any longer. Guess why? I like rural. Let Kitsap stay rural. King County, they could go ahead and be Seattle and be urban. Sadly, I don't have anything to discuss on that. I am talking about something sort of related though, and that is the KRC, the gun range. And it's sort of related in the sense that one of the abilities that we have to do in a bit more of a rural area than an urban area is we can shoot guns. People used to need to be able to shoot guns to survive. And guess what? We need some other people to be able to shoot guns in order to help us survive, and that's the military. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of military people in Kitsap. So anyways, the first thing about KRC I brought today is a little bit of show and tell, and that is the county code cites this book, the range source book, and how a gun range can be conformant, and a little bit of the show and tell I'm bringing is I noticed a little section in the introduction. So in case the person who wrote the law didn't exercise due diligence and actually read a little bit of what they cited, I thought I'd mention something that's noted on about every page on the bottom of the introduction, and that is this. Note the NRNA range sourcebook is not a code book or certification standard, but rather a publication listing general suggestions. Each range is site-specific, fact-sensitive, risk-driven, and needs to be considered in that light. The National Rifle Association assumes no liability, blah, blah, blah. So not good for use by law, and yet the law cites this. So we'll consider it a guideline, and I think that's fine. But I'd also like to offer the Marshall use of this book.
You can finish your sentence.
Okay. And my mind in that I will review it. So please extend that in case he doesn't have use of it or have it.
Thank you, Andrew. Marcus, do you still want to talk or did you speak early? I know you spoke earlier. Do you have something different?
Again, thank you. The only thing that I wanted to bring up just for the good of the order is that there's been a lot of people, and in fact, almost all of them have been non-club members speaking up for Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club. And it was that organization, the gun club, really does deserve a harder look at you doing something to get them open again. While we realize in DCD will say that, well, we can't change code, but you can. And the Kitsap County prosecutor is simply acting as your attorney when it comes to civil matters. So you can direct your attorney on how to act, how to settle, how to look at things. It does appear that Kitsap County has rehired Neil Wachter, the deputy prosecutor that they used to sue the gun club through trial, the same one that was seen partying with the judge during trial and yet never disclosed it. So it's amazing to me that the county rehired him, and it seems like they brought him back in just to deal with Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, although I'm sure he has other duties as well. So again, the power is in your hands. A past county commission has said, well, we don't control the prosecutor. And in criminal issues, that is true. But in a civil matter, he is simply your attorney. So you do have the power to direct your attorney how to function. And again, the club has been willing to demonstrate and show how we have complied. It's unfortunate that the county doesn't believe that it's worthy of a presentation here. But again, as someone who really wants to help you be popular with the people here, again, I can't direct you enough but to go back to the state constitution and use that as the fundamental, because that's what it's going to take to get our county back on track. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marcus. Alan Van Cleve.
Hello, commissioners. Going to throw you a curveball tonight. A few weeks ago, attended the Puget Sound Regional Council dinner, and I was very, very taken back by the way they collected data, and I'm going to explain it to you. First of all, I'd like to point out, I did the research. Our disaster of a ferry system is based on their recommendations. The light rail system that has no passengers, that costs taxpayers $30 million a mile to construct, there are recommendations. So bear with me. I go up to this dinner going, I've heard about this. What's this all about? Here's their scientific study. Walk into tables full of jars with glass beads. And I'll read exactly what I experienced. The scientific survey taken at this dinner struck me as being very interesting in that you select a glass bead that represents your ethnicity, AE, African, Asian, Caucasian, Hispanic, Native American, etc. And then you drop that representative bead in your preferred mode of transportation. AE, bus, car, carpool, bike, etc. This had me pondering, and I wondered if that is why Gore's traffic is the way it is, because I'm white and the pavement is black and the sky is blue. Or is it that our local government officials rely on racially, socially engineered study parameters that are used, and that maybe I should identify as translucent, as it could be possible in some way? Congestion is congestion and needs to be treated as such. I worry about you guys using their data to make serious decisions for our everyday life. And if you would, I would pass it on to them. That's no way to get accurate data to recommend you guys of what we need to do with our roads. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Alan. Are you talking about the meeting they had in Bremerton?
Yes.
Okay, thank
That
you.
was I met some wonderful
Did they feed
people.
you dinner?
Pardon me?
Did they feed you dinner?
Dinner was great.
Thank you for your comments. Robert Lars. Is Robert Lars or Oliver Hall here?
Larson.
Robert Larson.
Robert Larson, yeah. Hi, folks. Commissioners, thank you. Hey, my name is Robert Larson. I'm in Bremerton. I own 20 pieces of property in Kitsap County. I bought a piece of property at 1907 First Avenue West that previously had a mobile home on it that was removed. Before I bought this piece of property, I did my due diligence, confirming with the city of Bremerton that the property had a water meter. It did. I put the billing in my name. Therefore, Then I went and made an appointment with Kitsap County Public Works, and that's where we're at, Kitsap County Public Works, at the Annex Building on Imperial. And they confirmed this property at 1907 had a side sewer. So I paid my application fee and the billing went into my name. Then I find out that Kitsap County Public Works replaced a sewer main going down the street in front of this property. Here it is. Someone at Kitsap Public Works decided not to reconnect this lot with an existing paid-for side sewer with an open billing account. The gentleman I bought it from never disconnected the billing, never asked for it to be disconnected. He was never told it was disconnected. Okay, Kitsap County Public Works disconnected an active billing account without telling the owner, David Johnson. Okay, now Kitsap County Public Works is saying to me, I have to pay for a new side sewer saddle. Here's my question. Is it codified somewhere where Kitsap County Public Works can bypass a paid-for side sewer and not do a new saddle for a lot with a paid sewer that had an active billing account paid by the property owner who was not told, oh my goodness, who was not paid, or pardon me, who was not told his sewer was disconnected. So I apologize, but I'm gonna, I'll send emails to you guys on this. And this is an incredible situation. I mean, somebody made an executive decision to disconnect a side sewer, didn't, yes, ma'am.
Why don't you give Kirsten Jewell, our assistant county administrator, your contact information?
Wonderful.
And we'll follow up.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sir, what was
We'll get that all.
Thank you both.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
Okay. That is, and unless Oliver Hall also wants to
Excuse
speak.
me, but I thought we had 3 minutes where I would get my last minute in, but
You're good.
it turned into 2.
We gotcha. And yeah, I see Oliver was also the same handwriting. So that is all good. That is everybody we have signed up. Is there anybody online?
Oh, wait a second. And no one is raising their hand.
Okay. Commissioners, the last item on the agenda is Board of Commissioners comments.
I have something real quick.
Okay. Katie.
Just a reminder that county offices will be closed tomorrow in honor of Veterans Day, but I invite all of you to join us at the Veterans Day ceremony at the fairgrounds. There'll be a ceremony the resource fair begins at 9 and goes until 1 p.m. and the ceremony will be begin at 10:30.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay.
Yep.
All right. That concludes the Board of County Commissioners meeting. Thank you all for coming.